You might not expect a concert titled Lullaby of the Snow to be one that warmly ushers in spring, but that is what the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra is promising its audiences this week. Conductor David Bui will lead the orchestra in 2 performances tomorrow at the Crescent Arts Centre in Osborne Village through a program of English, Spanish, and local music. That program includes Sally Beamish's Saxophone Concerto No. 2, also known as Under the Wing of the Rock, which will be performed by Winnipeg's own Allen Harrington. Allen and David Bui both join me in the Classic 107 studios this morning. Hello, you two.
Good morning.
Hi.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about this balance that you're striking on this program between this Lullaby of the Snow, kind of these wisps of snow we've got going on in the city of Winnipeg today, and this idea that we're warmly ushering in spring. David, maybe we can start with you to ask, how are you maybe striking that sort of balance that seems to already exist in the weather here in Winnipeg?
Wow.
Big question right off the top.
Very, very big question. Yeah, I asked you to ask me very simple questions. And we start with this. No, so when Sean approached me and told me, oh, we've got this part of this concert already. We've got Allen Harrington playing this piece. We've got Sally Beamish on this program, a British composer. He basically asked me, what kind of piece would you like to play along with that one? And the first thing that came up to my mind was Britain, the variation on a theme by Frank Bridge. This is a piece I did a few years ago at a festival in Finland, and it was a great piece, and it is still a great piece. And Sean told me they haven't performed that piece in, I think, like over 30 years.
Wow.
So it was about time to put this piece back into the program.
I think
and here we are.
Here we are. What, when Sean McManus, the executive director of the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra, asks you this, why do you think Britain is the first composer that pops to your mind when he says, we need something to pair with Sally Beamish? What is it about Britain's musical language that you think works so well in this concert?
I think this program or this piece has so many different characters and themes. It is a variation. So it starts with the theme by Frank Bridge, and it leads to so many different topics. We go to Wiener Waltz. We have a funeral. We have a march. We have everything. So I wanted a program that could highlight all the different characters and all the different strengths of the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra. So I thought, yeah, that's a great piece.
Wonderful. So that's a bit of Britain's musical language that's being contributed to this concert. And then there is this saxophone concerto by Sally Beamish. We've talked a bit about Britain's musical language, Alan. I'm wondering, how would you describe Sally Beamish's musical language in this saxophone concerto?
Well, with this piece actually existed first as a viola concerto.
Oh.
And I believe Sally is a violist as well as composer. And I read that while she was composing the piece, she heard a performance of Branford Marsalis on saxophone, and that was served as an inspiration for her while she was composing this viola concerto. And then a couple of years after she finished writing it, she created this saxophone version of it. She stated that this was kind of a natural evolution of the piece, actually, because of this saxophone inspiration for the original. There is kind of an interesting story with it. There's a collection of poems that this is actually based upon this one poem called "Under the Wing of the Rock," and it's essentially the story of this soldier in I think this was the Battle of Glencoe in Scotland in the 1600s, and the soldier is dispatched to kill this child that they can hear crying, and the soldier comes across this mother singing a lullaby to the child, trying to get it to be quiet, I guess, go to sleep.
Yeah.
And the soldier realizes that he knows this song. His own mother had sung it to him, so he spares them, gives them some food and water, and goes back to his troops and kills an animal along the way to show blood on his sword. Anyways, it's got this it has this Celtic kind of flavor to it. It's very there's a very lyrical section in the beginning and the end, and a middle section that's very more rhythmic, and it's a real pleasure to play, and I'm quite looking forward to it in that space, the Crescent Arts Center. I think it's going to sound really nice.
So much to unpack with that piece as well, for everything that you've just said. But maybe back to a bit more of the technical sort of execution of something that was written for one instrument that you're playing on your own instrument. What is it like to do music written for viola on the saxophone? Are there any sort of special considerations that you then have to take into consideration when you are performing a piece like this versus one that's written for your instrument to begin with?
Well, I mean, I guess the composer did take care of some of those issues in this published version, that she did intend it to be for saxophone. Because the instruments have a similar range. You know, I think there's a lot that's very transferable.
Yeah.
But you know, there might be some special techniques on the string instrument that you can't duplicate exactly on the saxophone. But the composer did take care of that in the arrangement. So
okay.
Yeah.
It's such a challenge that I think most orchestras, soloists, conductors run into. How do you take the imagery of poetry, spoken language, and then turn it into something that is understood without language in an orchestral context? What are some of the challenges that then you have to face, David, as you are bringing this concerto and, by extension, this poem, which has such evocative imagery within it, this entire story that Allen has just shared? How do you go about bringing the poetry to life without words?
I think if you phrase that question that way, you should ask the composer. For me, it's actually easier if I have a poem or a preface or any kind of text before the composition. It makes it easier for me to grasp it, to understand it. So I've got like the poem, which can set the mood, and also I have the music that talks to me. So I've got two ways to approach this work. So in that sense, it makes it easier for me to understand the piece and also to tell the orchestra what kind of character I would like to have. So whenever there's a preface, I really enjoy reading it. It helps me a lot.
Yeah. You mentioned just before we went to air here, I think, Allen, that there's another piece that's on this program that really adds a lot more color to this sort of English characteristic that we've been speaking of with Sally Beamish and with Benjamin Britten, is the Libertango by Astor Piazzolla. How do you go about deciding that that's something that we need to add as a color to a lullaby of the snow? It certainly evokes a lot of warmer imagery, as we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation here.
Yes. Well, basically, I was asked to suggest a piece that was that would contrast with the Beamish, and something that was 5 minutes or less. And so
sometimes that's just a consideration, right?
It had to be for saxophone and strings, and specifically alto saxophone. I wanted to keep it the same size of saxophone that I'm playing for the Sally Beamish. So yeah, I just thought about some short pieces that would be fun and maybe a little flashy, and something that would contrast with it. So that's where that came about, actually.
Okay. Sometimes you just need that thing to balance out a program, right? Dave, this is your first time in Winnipeg, your first time with the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra. How do you think that this program, this balance that we've been talking about between images of warmer weather in spring versus these colder images that come with a poem like the one that is evoked in Sally Beamish's saxophone concerto. How do you think this balance will speak to Winnipeg audiences?
Well, I think everyone is looking forward for spring.
Indeed.
So, we can't wait to make all the people heart who are coming to the concerts, to get warm and get ready for spring and get out of this very cold weather.
Aha, very good, very good. And we got to ask, how have your impressions of the Chamber Orchestra been so far as you've been working with them? I'm sure they've been nothing but warm as well.
Absolutely. No, they're fantastic, really. The energy they put into from the very first note they play, it's just amazing. It's like I gave the cue for the first entrant, and I was baffed. I was like, wow, oh my gosh, there's so much energy. So I don't have to encourage them to give more. So it comes a lot from themselves. So we can just work purely on the musical aspects.
Audiences can hear that warmth tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock at the Crescent Arts Center, and then again at 7:30. Tickets and more information at themco.ca. We'll have more information at our website later on this morning, classic107.com, and on the Classic 107 app. Allen Harrington and David Bui, thank you so much for joining me in the Classic 107 studios to tell us more about Lullaby of the Snow.
Thank you.
Thank you.